Hi and welcome back to another episode of the Canary Room. Last one for 2016. Coming up on the show today, we carry on looking at advanced pairing and the techniques that we use in the Canary Room. We'll look some more at the feeding regime of this time of the year as we bring those birds gently and slowly into condition. And throughout the show, we'll talk about some of the things to look out for and mistakes to avoid as you plan your breeding season for 2017. As always, sit back and enjoy the show. We met this boy in the last episode. He's from episode 1 of the show. And this little lady here was in episode 2. Now last year, she was paired to his brother. And this year, she'll go with this bird. And the reason I'm putting this pair together is all about their pedigree. They are very closely related. They've got the visual qualities to pair match, but the young from this pairing, the cock young from this pairing, will be an essential part of the breeding programme moving forward. And it's one of my top tips really for breeding is look at your pairs and look at what you need in future. And as you're putting your pairs together, understand where your birds, your future birds, are going to come from. So this pairing is going to produce the cocks for me for 2018 and 2019. The weight that we saw in the last episode with this cock will produce the hens for me, but I'm unlikely to keep any of the cock birds there. This blood from this pairing will dominate the stud moving forward. Now obviously, I want to check the visual quality of them in the end of 2017, but knowing the pedigree behind these birds and looking at the visual quality now, the shortness, the roundness, the position of these birds gives me a real strong indication that any young that I get from them should be of tip-top quality. These birds are where the cocks are coming from. I'll take hens from them too, but this is an essential pairing for the light and variegated lines for next year. We did say this fella was going to be a very busy boy next year. This is the third hen that I'm going to run him with. It's a clear yellow hen. You can see the back of its rump has been pulled, and we've seen that in previous episodes, but it's a very, very nice, short, typey hen. Came in from John Evans. Pedigree-wise, it's close to this bird. It's bred down from the same line. But this is another bird that I'll only take hens from next year. And the same will be the case of the next bird that we see as well. So there's one pair that I'm hoping to produce some cock birds from. But this pair, I'm only going to take hens from. At least that's the plan. You can see when this bird moves, and we'll move it across the perches, that it's got a nice type. So it's got that nip in the neck that he needs. It's got a nice rise over its beak. It's got tidy wings and a tidy tail. Again, positionally, this is a nice bird. Now it's just come out the flight cages, so it's not showing itself particularly well at this time. Something else to watch out for, and I hear this so many times by novices and even some champions coming in. They'll look at this pairing and wonder why I'm not pairing this clear yellow hen with a clear buff cock. And the reason is very simple. I pair the best birds based on their visual quality and not their colour. Colour is the easiest thing you can put on a bird. If I was to just focus on colour, I could end up pairing any bird in the shed with any bird in the shed, and the offspring of that pairing wouldn't necessarily be towards the type that I'm looking for and the style of bird that I like. And that's why one of my other top tips is when you're pairing birds, almost disregard colour. You pair the best features to the best features. And once this bird moves, you'll see the typiness of it. You'll see the strength in the back, that nice rise, that nice free neck. And these birds, I think, will go really well together. Before we see this next hen, who's currently biting my fingers, one of the things that I wanted to point out to you is one of the dangers of having the hens in flight cages. Now, of course, the beauty of it is that they get a fair amount of exercise. The downside is that there's plenty of seed on there, and as a consequence, the greedy ones, and this one's proven to be greedy, can gorge themselves. Now, if I blow down in a minute, you'll see that there's a pocket of fat underneath the throat of the bird, and that bird will need to lose the fat before the breeding season to be in tip-top condition. So when we look at it in a moment, it will look chesty. Again, it's another pairing based on visual quality and pedigree. This bird here is another one that's come back from John out of the variegated line, which this bird is now an anchor for. This bird is a nice bird. It's got a good head on it and it's a nice typey bird. It was bred out of a clear yellow cock, but you can see it's taken on a fair amount of variegation. It's nicely balanced in the variegation. Now that doesn't mean anything other than it's quite attractive to the eye. You don't score any more points for it on the show bench, but it will catch a judge's eye. A nice balanced marked bird. It's got that free neck that we're looking for, and it's got a nice rise above the beak. It's a pairing that will go well together. I talked in the last episode about the cage configuration. To run a cockbird, and you can see he's pulling now and coming into really strong condition. But to run a cockbird over 4 hens, they will need to be separated. Now the hens will come into condition at varying times. 2 of the hens that I'm going to run in with will be unflighted birds, this one and the clear that we've just seen, and 2 will be over-year birds, the white that we saw in the last episode and the bird that we saw, the variegated that we saw at the very beginning of this episode. The hope is that because they're over-year birds, they may be a little bit later coming into condition, and that means that he'll get the chance to put both of these hens down first. Now what I'd also say about your breeding plans, I know I can rely on this cockbird because I know, having kept him for a year, that he fills eggs and he's a fertile bird. And that's really important, particularly when you're running a cock over multiple hens. The chances with some of the unflighted birds are that they won't fill every egg. The challenge, of course, with running a cock over multiple hens is ensuring that he catches them all. And that, as we'll see in 2017, is something we can look forward to. So regular subscribers to the show will know that in 2016 we changed our approach to the development of lines. We looked to develop a clear line, a lightly variegated and variegated line, a heavily variegated and self line, a blue line and a cinnamon line. You'll all know it didn't quite go to plan. So for 2017, I've stripped it right back. We're going to have fundamentally a light line and a dark line, and then we'll have some cinnamons to the side. This next pair are in the light line. There's a variegated yellow cock on the end here, who's now coming into some stunning condition. This bird is the nephew of the heavily variegated buff cock we've just seen. It's bred out of his brother. You can see it's got stunning position on it. It's got a really good depth of colour. It's had a little bath, so it looks a little bit untidy, but it's got a great quality of feather, and it's got a lot of feather. Where it lacks in quality a little is in its head, which is why it's going to be paired to this variegated bird here, which is actually his cousin. Now this bird, although not showing herself brilliantly, has got a stunning head and great wing carriage. Both birds have got a nice upright position on them, and that's something I'll look to fix. This bird was bred out of a very, very nice variegated yellow cock, which was also related to the heavily variegated buff bird. So this bird and this pairing I could take cocks from for next year. I'll certainly look to take hens from them, but this pairing could also contribute cock birds to the line moving forward. It's important that all of my eggs, so to speak, aren't in one basket, and that I have a contingency plan. And this pair is the contingency plan. Now, I won't run this cock with more than one hen this year. This is a very good hen for him, and I'll see what they produce before deciding next year how many birds he gets to be paired with. We haven't seen them in the canary room for a while, but they are very much in fine fettle, and part of their conditioning as well too is back to these little favourites, the pinkies. These have been defrosting for a while now. I was going to give them to Aaron, the cameraman, for his lunch. He preferred a bacon butty, and it's really about making sure all of the birds come into condition at the right time. Now the British, we know, are generally a few weeks later than the Canaries, which is great, but these little pinkies just give them a little bit of interest in the flights at this time of year. That little bit of protein, help them get through, help them start to develop. Light, as we know, and the extension of light is the thing that brings birds into condition, but giving them food and tidbits along the way can only help. So in episode 1 of the show, we saw how we made our egg food. We're still making it the same way today. But for 2017, I've got a new product that I'm going to try. It's from Lifeguard. What you'll find in bird keeping, and certainly what I've found, is that as things move across poultry, across pigeons, across different types, British, Canaries, people try different things year in, year out. This year I'm going to give a couple of new products a try to help with the egg production. So I'm just going to start the process now as we're at the end of December, coming into January. I'm going to add a little spoonful of seaweed into the egg mix and give that to the birds. It's untested for me, but I think, you know, you've got to try new things all the time. I'm ensure that the birds are in tip-top condition. It's a completely natural product. A lot of what I give the birds are natural products to help enrich them and their environment and their lives. So I'm going to just pop a little bit into the egg food mix that we've made, and then we'll feed it to the birds. So another Lifeguard product that we're going to try this year. I've heard some phenomenal reports from this, from British keepers, from Fife breeders, and from foreign finch breeders. It's another poultry product. It's called Lifeguard. It's a 100% natural product. It's plant-based, antioxidants. It's a stress reliever. It's supposed to increase and encourage egg production. Now, I've heard some wonder stories, as you do with every product every year, but I thought I'd give it a go with my birds. So over January and February, I'll start loading the birds, all of the birds, with this 2 to 3 times a week. And then when the hens are in their cages on their own, before they lay the first egg, they'll have it every day. The breeding season, as we know, takes an awful lot out of the birds, so you've got to put stuff in them so that it doesn't do them any long-term damage. It's a product I've never used before. Time will tell whether it works. Last bit of green foods, this time of year I like to give it. We know we put it in the egg food mix, it's kale. We just put a handful in each of the cages for the birds to peck over, and it will just keep them in tip-top condition and just keep things interesting for them. So 2 of our new additions to the dark line for 2017. A heavily variegated yellow cock and a self-green buff hen. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. Don't need to pair 2 self birds together to produce selfs. This pairing will produce self birds and heavily variegated birds. This is a really nice short self-green buff hen. Beautiful width across the shoulders and a good head, but the cock bird has got a stunning head on him. A very nice depth of colour and really nice lacings, as the hen has. They've both got good wing carriage and they've both got good tails. Both have nice position. Now this is a pair of birds that I only will run as a pair. The beauty of the system for next year will mean that this hen will probably be used sparingly when it comes to rearing a young. I think it's clear to see that the cockbird is absolutely bouncing and seems very smitten with his chosen mate, which is incredibly important that as the season goes on, that the pair have almost an attraction to each other. What's also really good about this pairing is that both birds are from full rounds of nests. So both of these had 4 siblings in the nest with them, and that should mean, with any luck, that fertility is carried through to both of these birds. One of the other great things about having different coloured canaries in the room, so clears and lightly variegated, is I'll be able to float the dark bird's eggs under the clear birds, and I'll know where the chicks are coming from. I've got high hopes for this pair. This cockbird here is bred down, we know from a different stud, it's got some of my blood in it somewhere, but it's come down from Graham. It's a nice bird, this. And this pairing together, I think, will work really, really well. Of course, as always, only time will tell. Final pairing that I wanted to show you today in our selected pairings was this pair. A heavily variegated yellow cockbird and a borderline variegated, heavily variegated buff hen. A couple of things to point out with this pairing. One is the feather quality. This bird is although a buff, a very soft feathered buff. And the bird next to it, although a yellow, has got quite a hard feather to it. So within the yellow and buff pairings, there's also different textures of feather. Not something to get overly hung up about, but to produce a really good, strong bird, something to pay attention to. This bird has got real width to it. It's got a superb wing carriage. The cock here is perhaps a little bit long in the flights. This bird's flights are nice and short, and when it shows itself properly, and bearing in mind it's just been pulled from a flight cage, when it shows itself properly, you can just see the tips of its wings. The yellow cockbird has got real style to it. It's a very, very strong bird, a lovely nip in the neck, but perhaps a little flat on the head. The buff hen, however, has a stunning full head on it. And again, you want to improve on the qualities of each bird. You don't want to double up on faults. So where there's a fault on a bird, you want to try and correct it with its match pair. Positionally, both birds are strong. The buff hen probably has a slightly better position than the yellow cock. And again, you're hoping that that comes through in the majority of the young. Of course, if bird keeping and bird breeding was as simple as just putting two birds together that visually you thought were matched and you'd produce a shed full of winners, it'd be no fun. Although every now and then it would be nice. That's it for the pairings this time. We'll have a look at more birds in future episodes. So that's all we've got time for today as we finish 2016 and look forward to 2017 and some exciting plans for the Canary Room as we move forward. Don't forget you can contact the show, info@thecanaryroom.tv. Until next time, take care. One take held. Boom, boom, shake the room. If you just recorded that. Yeah, great. There's your outtake. Hello. Do the.
I'll just use that.
Yeah. Did you get that? Take a sit down. Take a sit down. Why would you take a sit down? Garlic bread. We like to feed the canaries garlic bread. Oh, I looked at you. Line! So that's all we've got time for today. Just spat everywhere. Wild seeds, and you're talking, you know, it's really, really nice if you can get it, is sorry, I'll come back in a second. And you're talking what's really, really nice if you can get it is chickweed.